Okay, Jock, it's time to get started with your teardown. So we're going to get everything out of the case and start getting things going on the service. Okay, let's take all the power out of your mainspring here. Ooh-wee, moving around. That's definitely in need of a jewel or two. Turns out 2 is the right number. Okay, let's go ahead and take this out of the case. Oh, nice style, very nice. Okay, everything on your crown looks good. Okay. Okay. Very good. Very nice. Looks good. The lume is very nice on your dial. Let's have a look underneath, see what it says. If anything, sometimes these later ones, of course, this one does not. Huh, interesting. Sometimes the later 6309s have nothing on their dial. But that doesn't mean anything really, other than that was past the point where they were putting the dates on the dials. Seen it many times. Okay. So that's those components tucked away nicely. We're going to come back to those and do a little restoration work if we can. Preservation work, I should say. All right. All right. Well, let's get things torn down and have a good look at all of your pieces. Make sure everybody's happy. A little bit of power left, but nothing too. A very slight line on your pallet fork jewels. I want to make sure that's not going to be a problem. We'll take a close look after we get it cleaned. So look here. And a little bit of motion here. You might want to push this jewel down just a touch, or I should say, not a jewel. Push the bushing down. Woo-wee! Holy moly! That is an oozy mess. Look at that. Goodness me. Oh. Well, your mainspring has pushed out a lot of its grease. We'll have a close look at that in a moment. Sometimes when people service these, they may not want to take the mainspring out, and so they'll just add some more grease to the existing S2 lubricant. So what you can see here, if I can do this right, is you can see this brassing here. This is from your motion of your barrel pushing the top of the barrel into this bridge, and that leads to wear. Just like here, this is where your ratchet wheel has worn into the top of the bridge. That's because this is worn, as is the underside where the barrel goes into the main plate. So we're going to rejewel that. That's why we add jewels, to eliminate those issues once and for all. Okay, so here are your train of wheels. There's your Fourth wheel. Looks like this has been spared water, which is good. Here's your escape wheel. Here's your third wheel. And let's remove the barrel and see what we got. Whoa! Oh boy. That's a lot of grease. A lot of grease. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Ooh. Oh. Okay. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So you had a worn lower. This is an old method for trying to tighten up that hole. All right, I'm going to try and point this out so you can see it really well. So what happens is the lateral motion of this heavy spring. This spring is really, really heavy, and so it pushes a lot. And so it pushes really hard on this hole because this arbor port, or this arbor, is hard steel. This plate is soft brass. And so what people do in the business is they will sometimes take a punch and punch out a little bit of that brass to force this hole closed. And then they may ream it to ream it out to try and make it a size that works. That's a no-no in today's world. I mean, maybe in '96 there weren't any jewels, although you could buy Zeitz jewels to go in here and you could jewel this then. In fact, I have some older Zeitz jewels that work in here, but we have these custom jewels that we now have that are really, really nice. And this is not a long-term issue. We're not going to have to worry about that, but we are definitely going to make sure that this is properly reamed and jeweled and is good for the long haul. Okay, so I call that old work that was out of necessity, but not necessarily well advised. Okay. Woo, man, holy mackerel. Okay, seen that on a lot of movements. It's pretty. Well, I don't know what the right term is here, but pretty brutal on this plate. I think your main plate is okay. I don't think we have to worry about that. What I am a little bit worried about, if I can keep going on, is when I do ream this, it has to be centered. If not, we push this barrel into this gear. And so as a consequence, we have to be really careful about how centered we are. And I have ways of trying to do that robustly, but if that process has buggered the upper surface, then we have to worry a little bit. But I think we'll be okay. Just from what I've seen in the past, I think it's all right. Okay. Now, calendar side. It's always fun to see. Oh, that's not fun though. Yeah, that's good. Okay. It's always interesting, I should say, to see what methods and techniques people have used in the past to try and remove wear or issues. Some are just perhaps not so elegant. Maybe that's the right word. If we can use a word like that to describe watchmaking. I think it's elegant. Okay, now we get into the heart of the calendar. We got your plates here that need to be removed. Yeah, I think we'll be okay. It really depends on the shape of this port. Because when we do our reaming, we do it from this side. Alright, here's your date wheel. Right on. Okay. These things have somewhat simple but yet somewhat complex keyless works and date components. They are a bit of a mess, but it's interesting, the design and the features of how this all comes together. Quite a bit of lubrication there. Center wheel. Looks pretty good. This is always slightly susceptible to water. If there's been any water, you'll get rust inside of your gears, and that's no good. Okay. Very complicated piece. Very cool, but very complicated. But only one screw holds all of this down. With that's your movement torn down. All right, so now we're going to get to the jeweling and cleaning and checking and making sure that everything is the way it is. And when we come back, you can have a nice clean movement with nice new jewels. All right, we'll be back, Jock. Okay, Jock. Well, we're getting ready to get started putting your watch back together. I just wanted to point out a few things before we get going. You're getting a new mainspring. Turns out your mainspring is sprung, for the lack of a better term, but it's fairly heavily coned on this end, and this bridle should be around about like that. So it's lost a lot of its oomph, and there's frictional loss in here as it affects the barrel itself. So this one's going to come back and you get a brand new one, so that's good. Another thing to point out is that we have put a new jewel in your lower mainspring arbor port. We've gotten rid of the issue here with this punch out piece, and that came out really nice. So that's all nice and burnished and taken care of. So it's perfectly flat and ready to accept the barrel again. So that's good. You also have, of course, the upper mainspring arbor port jewel here where there was a bushing. And that bushing will come back to you so you can check it out. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and start building your train and getting things back together. All right, so we lubricate your center wheel jewel and your arbor port jewel. So nice to say arbor port jewel. These are custom made by myself and my collaborator, Mr. Klein, and they are wonderful American-made jewels that we have had produced. So that's nice. Really nice. Go. All right, so now we get to put in your barrel. Ooh, look at that. So good. Okay, let's check all your wheels here. Make sure they're nice and free of dust and debris. Make sure there's nothing in the way of this running perfectly. There's lots of adages about, you know, measure twice, cut once. Well, with the movement, it's always about check twice, assemble once. There's only so much you can detect and catch, but the more of that you do prior to assembly, the better off you are in testing, because if you're not careful, or as careful as you can be, you can end up assembling a piece that has a flaw, and then you have to track it down. Okay, now with these movements, you got to put in the click spring first. They are held down by the bridge. Oops. The efficiency of Seiko. They were ultimately efficient in the construction of these movements. Lots of shared screws across the movement. These very simple stamped click springs. They're a bit fiddly, but it's okay. That's me, not them. Oh, come now. I'm trying to be tricky here. I'm just not being efficient like Seiko. And there we go. Okay. There's your bridge. You can see the wear here from your ratchet wheel. That is now eliminated. So we're good to go. All right, that's everything. There's no hacking on this movement, of course. So no hacking lever to worry about. Oh, go on your spots. There we go. Okay. Click in place. Now let's rearrange some things here. One minor impediment with these movements is that the third wheel is hard to line up because there's no holes in the bridge. So if it doesn't take automatically, it can be a little bit of a struggle. But fear not, we will get there. There we go. Okay, third wheel's in. Center wheel. And there we go. Nice free running movement. Very good. Ooh, look how solid that is. That's so nice. So nice. This is a very clean movement. It's so good that you use this for so many years and never had a negative impact of water. It's just shows the resiliency of these things if you're careful enough. Or if you stop using it at a point where the seals begin to fail, then you're in better shape, I think. It's a tough call. Okay, well, that's those pieces of the train are put together. Let's go ahead and lubricate this side. All right, there's your center wheel. Your third wheel. Your escape wheel. Good. Okay. Let's go ahead and flip it over. Build up the rest on this side. So we'll do some lubrication first. So your third wheel and escape wheel. You'll also lubricate your center wheel and put your cannon pinion on. Okay. Good. Let's put your lower die shock. Come on. Okay, that's good. Now we can flip back over. Ooh, nice and silent. That's so nice. That is so nice. Okay, so next is pallet fork and balance. Let's put your pallet fork, which has been lubricated, in place. So that goes here. Okay. Its bridge. There we go. Nice to see that freely move. Let's put some power in here. There we go. Okay, so let's put your balance in place. That looked good right there. That motion was nice. Nice fast click. Okay. And there we go. All right. All right, now we drop your die shock in place. Hopefully everything springs to high velocity. Looks good. So far, so good. Okay. We are running. That's great. All right. Let's check and see how we did. We'll be right back. Okay, Jock, we're going to see if we can get you adjusted here. See how this goes. Starting pretty good, at least in the amplitude department. Let's see if we can get that beat error and rate taken care of. So, first stab. See if we can get the beat under control. Which way did we go? Nope. Okay. How'd that help? Did that help? All right. That's kind of where we were. A little better. All right. Still keep going. Okay, that's good. I'm going to bring your post over a bit, anticipating some more motion here. All right, so now let's bring this back some more. See if we can get all that beat error taken away. Okay, still going. Okay, that looks pretty good. It may look like a mess now, but we'll get there. Let's keep going here. We'll get there. Okay, that's kind of what I want to see. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. Let's watch these numbers for a little bit, see how we do. We got some lubrication to move around, of course, but not too bad. We'll let that clean up a little bit, see if we can get those numbers up. Okay. All right. Well, this is always a good place to start. Nice, clean signal. Got some lubrication to move, but overall, I'd say we're doing pretty good here. We're going to lose a little rate as the amplitude jumps, so that's good. We'll just adjust that out when we need to. Okay. Well, I'm going to let this break in, and we're gonna go from here. All right, we'll be back. Okay, Jock. Well, here we are. Got your movement broken in. We're running super well here, plus or minus a few seconds a day, mid 240s. Pretty good stuff as far as I'm concerned. We're ready to get going. Putting the last things back together, and we're gonna get your watch done here. So I'm really happy. Moving forward. Okay, Jock. Well, we're ready to start finishing up this side of the movement. I went ahead and put your keyless works together just as a way to get things going a little bit faster here. So now we get to put your calendar pieces together. Start that process here. All right, so now we can put your date ring back on. Sorry. Okay, let's go ahead and lubricate. Good. This plate helps to hold down the setting lever. It's a complicated set of plates and levers, and everything has to be in the right position. But when you've got it right, it works perfectly. Okay, plate number 2. Yes. Everybody a little clean up here. Looks good to me. Of course, you never see it again, but nice to know it's the way it's supposed to be. Alright, here's your disc. You gotta make sure that everything aligns as it should. And there we go. Okay, now we can check it. Perfect. There we go. Day and date. Click over. Let's do that one more time, just to watch it closely. Tuesday the 28th should become Wednesday the 29th. Perfect. Okay. Great. Well, we are ready to get your dial and hands back on. Okay, Jock. Well, we've got everything back together here. We're going to go ahead and get your case back and case back seal back on, or on. And we are going to review what we've done. So your case back seal is there. Go ahead and get it tightened up here. All right. Well, there we have it. Here is your fantastic 6309 ready to come home. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about what we've done. We did quite a few things. Of course, first and foremost is full service on the movement, so that's been completed. That included jeweling your lower mainspring arbor port and your upper mainspring arbor port. You had some previous I wouldn't call it damage, but previous work that had been done to your movement by someone who tried to tighten up that barrel arbor port because, of course, it had worn out over time. We got rid of any of the issues associated with that. There were some holes essentially that had been punched into the main plate, but that's all taken care of. So mechanically, the watch is absolutely perfect. It's sorted out, ready to go. Cosmetically, we had a couple little jobs to do. I didn't do anything with your case. Of course, your case is beautiful the way it is. It still retains its polish. It's got its dings and dents, but you know what? It's a tool watch that was used, and so those sorts of things are just there. Let's point out some of the obvious stuff. Of course, you got a new crystal, so this is a Hardlex replacement. New seals all around. I rebuilt your crown and ensured that, so what was happening, what I noticed on your crown, just a quick story about that, your crown threads down perfectly. However, your crown is made up of two, maybe more components. There's a washer in there and some other things, but the crown itself, where the threads are, is sort of a press fit object. So there's a sort of stamped object around on the outside, which is part of this knurled and this part right here. But then within that is the threaded bit. And so those two things were sort of turning relative to one another when you tighten things down too tight. So first of all, don't go so tight, just to the point where it touches. That's enough. I was able to sort of mechanically reattach those, but I also backed it up with a little bit of just a touch of epoxy right in between. There's sort of these knurls, and I was able to force some down in there and got it very, very stiff. So it's in good shape, ready to go. New seal, reassembled back to the way it should be. New case back seal, of course. New bezel seal. I stabilized your pip the glass had started to recede because the loom, the only thing that really holds this in place is the sort of the distance between this outer bezel and the inner bezel that holds down your crystal. But there's a little bit of binder and loom that sort of hold this flat. And so I rebound it to the bezel and was able to make that function the way it should. Your click of your bezel is perfect, so that sounds great. So your hands. So I was able to clean up all of the black, just basically remove that outer edge blackening that had happened to your hands. You know, it's not the rhodium or chromate or whatever it is finish that's there. It's a little bit into the brass, but I was able to make it shine to the point where I think at the wrist level, you're really going to just see nice, flat, even hands. I rebound your loom together. So the loom itself was brittle. I put some lacquer, essentially some binding agent that holds loom together on the back of all of your hands. And I was able to add a little bit of patinated loom, essentially older loom and some binding material and a little bit of new loom that had been colorized in order to remove that hole. And I think it came out pretty good. I think it's nice and uniform. The finish looks good. Again, this is a watch that got use, and so as a consequence, it looks the part. It looks like a great watch that is ready to go for another 40 years. Well, let's see, what else? Let's go over some of the things we replaced and some of the things that are new. Of course, your objects here. So we've got your crystal we replaced. That's your original. Going back to you. Your case back seal. Your bezel gasket, which is of course in two pieces because it's brittle. Here's your square cross section. Should be a donut. That's your crown seal, and this is your upper mainspring arbor port bushing. So all of those will come back to you. You're going to get a new mainspring back, so that's another pouch. So that's here. Just be careful when you open it once the spring out, but if you want to take a look at it, it's in there. Otherwise, again, just what a beauty. What a really great watch. Everything functions exactly as it should. So we can click over the day and date. Hand alignment is spot on where it should be. We can go in and we can set the quick day and date. Today is Friday. I believe it's the 11th. There we go. Screw down your crown and you're set to go. All right, well, Jock, thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure. I loved swapping stories about motorcycles and fun and watches and everything else. It's been a real great experience, and I hope you use this watch and keep it on your wrist and have a great time with it. All right, well, thanks so much again.